Good afternoon. The Secretary General and the Prime Minister will make introductory remarks, and then they'll be happy to take a few questions. Secretary General.
Prime Minister Orban, Ludovic, warm welcome to NATO headquarters. It's great to see you here, and congratulations on your appointment as Prime Minister. Romania plays a key role in our alliance. You contribute to NATO operations in Afghanistan and Kosovo. You host our ballistic missile defense site in Devizulu, and your troops deter aggression as part of our multinational battle group in Poland. You also make essential contributions to Black Sea security, leading a multinational battle group in Craiova and participating in joint exercises and maritime patrols. We agree on the strategic importance of the Black Sea region, and we have strengthened NATO's presence on land, at sea and in the air. To keep our people safe in a more dangerous world, we also need to invest in defense. So I welcome Romania's plans to spend 2% on defense this year, and I welcome the fact that we have already reached 2% of GDP to defense. And also your plans to modernize your armed forces over the next decade. I count on Romania, as on all allies, to keep up the momentum. Prime Minister, we have just discussed the current tensions in the Middle East. The situation in this region remains volatile and fragile. It is in nobody's interest to have a new conflict. Peace and stability in the Middle East is important for all NATO allies. So allies continue to consult closely. Yesterday I spoke with President Trump. He asked NATO to become more involved in the Middle East. NATO has the potential to contribute more to regional stability and the fight against international terrorism. And we are looking into what more we can do. This week I also spoke to Iraqi Prime Minister Mahdi. I reiterated NATO's strong commitment to the fight against terrorism and to our training and capacity building mission to prevent the return of our common enemy, ISIS. We agreed on the need for restraint and de-escalation in the region. Let me thank Romania for its contributions to NATO's mission in Iraq. The safety of our personnel is paramount. For the time being, we have suspended our training, and we are taking all precautions necessary to protect our people. This includes the repositioning of personnel to different locations, both inside and outside Iraq. But NATO maintains a presence in Iraq, and we remain in close contact with the Iraqi authorities. So, Prime Minister, let me once again welcome you to NATO and thank you for Romania's strong commitment to our alliance, and I look forward to continuing working closely with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure for me to be at the NATO headquarters right at the beginning of the new year. NATO is fundamental for Romania, and our commitment to its success is ironclad. I am grateful to the Secretary General for a very substantial and fruitful meeting. We had a comprehensive discussion about the security challenges confronting our alliance, including the security situation in the Black Sea region. We have reviewed the priorities for continuing NATO's adaptation in the light of the significant decision adopted by the Allied leaders in London 1 month ago. I have used the opportunity to congratulate the Secretary General for his leadership, which is so important for the success of NATO, while assuring him of Romania's full support for achieving the goals of our alliance. as well as of the continuity of our policies and commitments. We will continue to allocate 2% of GDP to defense in accordance with the objective assumed by the allies at the Wales Summit in 2014. At the same time, Romania will continue to contribute to NATO's missions and initiatives, to the Allied forward presence on the eastern flank, and to the NATO readiness initiative, as well as in Afghanistan, Kosovo, and Iraq. All these are not only concrete contributions to the activity of the alliance, but also ways in which Romania supports the Allied unity and solidarity, as well as a strong transatlantic link through a substantial participation to a fair burden sharing within NATO. We have also discussed about the security situation in the Black Sea, which continues to deteriorate while Russia continues to strengthen its military posture. I have underlined the importance attached by Romania to the consolidation of NATO's role in the Black Sea region, and we have agreed to continue working together for further strengthening of Allied forward presence in the south of the eastern flank in all areas, land, air, and maritime. We have also agreed to continue to support our partners in the region for increasing their resilience against internal and external challenges. Another important topic of discussion was the reflection process on strengthening NATO's political dimension that Allied leaders have decided to launch. I have underlined that this process needs to contribute further to strengthening NATO unity, solidarity, and ability to adapt, starting from the premise that NATO has to continue the adaptation process and to consolidate its deterrence and defense posture, and not from the idea that the alliance is in a crisis, which is incorrect. Romania will lend its full support to this process under your able leadership, Mr. Secretary General. Last but not least, I have also expressed Romania's support for the efforts aimed at deepening the NATO-EU cooperation, including in areas such as military mobility, countering hybrid threats, and ensuring stability in our neighborhood. Romania will remain a strong supporter of the strategic partnership between the two organizations, which have to act in full complementarity and synergy. Overall, a very good and substantial meeting that allowed us to review the priorities ahead regarding the continuation of NATO's adaptation, the consolidation of security in our region, and Romania's role and contribution to this process. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for a few questions. We'll start with Calea Europeană, gentleman with the glasses.
Thank you. So as we know, NATO has adapted its posture on the Black Sea, but at the same time we see a challenging situation because Russia is building up its military and so on, ships, missiles. In this context, does NATO intend to update its posture on the Black Sea region and also on the Middle East crisis? During the attacks on the Iraqi bases where were hosted Allied forces, does the Aegis Ashore missile defense system, which is hosted by Romania as part of the NATO's defense system, it has functioned, let's say, properly? Thank you.
So first of all, the Black Sea is of strategic importance for NATO, and NATO has increased its presence in the Black Sea region, on land, at sea and in the air. With enhanced air policing, with more naval presence, and also with more presence with land forces, especially with the tailored forward presence and the brigade we have in Craiova. We are constantly assessing the need to further strengthen our presence. We have to remember that 3 of our member states are littoral states to the Black Sea: Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey. And then we have 2 close partners, Ukraine and Georgia, who are also Black Sea countries. We are also working closely with them, helping them, working with them, exercising with them. I recently visited Ukraine. The whole North Atlantic Council visited Ukraine, and we saw how we are helping them to, for instance, build naval academies and strengthen their naval capabilities. So on top of that, we have increased the readiness of our forces so we can easily, quickly reinforce, and we are also conducting more exercises. So the Black Sea region is of importance, great importance for NATO, and we have to remember that what triggered the adaptation, the strengthening of NATO's collective defense, which we have seen over the last years, was actually the illegal annexation of Crimea in the Black Sea. Then, when it comes to the ballistic missile defense site in Romania, in Devozulu, we are, of course, vigilant. We are following the situation very closely, but there is no reason to change our posture level because we have no indication of an increased threat of ballistic missiles to NATO territory. But we remain vigilant. We follow the situation closely, and the missile defense site and the radars are, of course, providing us with valuable information, and we continue to follow the situation very closely.
Romanian TV, lady in grey. Lady in grey there.
Hello. Can you please tell us what do you mean by larger involvement in the Middle East? Can you be more specific?
NATO is already playing an important role in the fight against terrorism, and NATO is already present in the Middle East in different ways. If you look at the wider Middle East region, we are of course present in Afghanistan with our train, assist and advise mission there. We have a training mission in Iraq, and we are also working with partner countries in the region, for instance Tunisia and Jordan. We help them with intelligence, with special operation forces, because we strongly believe that building local capacity, training local forces is the best way to fight international terrorism. Just before Christmas, we also visited a new regional center which NATO has developed and established together with some countries in the Gulf region, a regional center in Kuwait, which is also contributing to our presence and our activities, capacity building activities in the wider Middle East region. So NATO already plays an important role in fighting international terrorism, and we are present in the region. What President Trump called for yesterday was more NATO involvement, and we are looking into what more we can do. I will not speculate about the outcome, but I will say that I think that NATO has the potential to do more. If we look at NATO's history, we have conducted big operations before in different theaters, in different ways. So we have the command structure, we have tried and tested structures to do capacity building, to do training, and we have also the structures to do this in a way where we ensure political transparency and consultation and decision making involving all the countries being part of this, which is not always only NATO allies but also very often partner countries, as for instance we have seen both in Afghanistan and Iraq, where NATO allies work with partners. Then I will highlight the importance of talking with countries in the region. If NATO is going to do more, of course we're going to do that together with countries in the region, as we do in Afghanistan, as we do in Iraq, Jordan, Tunisia and elsewhere. So I spoke with the Iraqi Prime Minister a few days ago. Today I had a meeting with the Iraqi ambassador to NATO, and of course we will consult, discuss closely with countries in the region, because if we are going to do more, we're going to do that based on agreement with them.
Okay, NRK, gentleman in the second row.
Secretary General and Prime Minister Ludovic Orban. Secretary General, could you please, without concluding, just give us an insight to what capacities and resources that you could deploy in the Middle East that would satisfy what President Trump is asking for? And Prime Minister Orban, tomorrow there will be a meeting in the European Union among the foreign ministers that have been moved forward. President Trump has asked European countries to pull out of what remains of the Iranian deal. Do you support this position? And again, Secretary General, Europe has been challenged because of the situation between Iran and the US. How will this affect the EU and NATO partnership? Will NATO and EU collaborate tighter or and more closely when it comes to the Middle East? Thank you.
So we are now looking into what more we can do to help to stabilize the Middle East and to fight international terrorism. We already do a lot, especially when it comes to training, advising and assisting local forces, as we do in Afghanistan with our training mission there, and we do with the training mission we have in Iraq. I visited Iraq last fall, and I saw how NATO trainers are helping the Iraqi forces to improve their skills, their capabilities to fight ISIS, to fight Daesh, to fight international terrorism. And I strongly believe that the best way we can fight international terrorism is not always by deploying NATO troops in big combat operations. Sometimes we have to do that, but the best way is to enable local forces to fight terrorism themselves. And that's exactly what we do in Afghanistan, what we do in Iraq. And of course, we can look into if we can do more of that kind of activities. We can also do other things, but I will be very careful about speculating too much about that, because we are now looking into the different options. We need a proper decision-making process in NATO involving, of course, all allies, and we need to discuss this with the countries in the region. Because what we do in Afghanistan, what we do in Iraq, Jordan, Tunisia and elsewhere is always, of course, dependent on that we work together with the countries in the region. And this is also one of the issues I then discussed with the Iraqi Prime Minister earlier this week, how we can make sure that NATO can continue and help them in fighting terrorism in Iraq. Yeah, sorry, the other question was about NATO-EU. Well, for me, it is extremely important to work together, NATO and the European Union, because we face the same security environment, the same challenges. We have different capabilities. And when we fight international terrorism, when we try to stabilize the Middle East, we need many different tools. We need political tools, diplomatic tools, sometimes military tools. We need economic tools. So neither EU nor NATO have all these tools. So we need to work together to make sure that we have all the different capabilities, all the different tools we need in the fight against international terrorism.
I think the appeal is not addressed to Romania, because our position was very clear from our point of view. Iran should respect the provision regarding the non-proliferation of nuclear and for other things are very clear. I cannot answer in the name of other countries, European countries.
Very last question, NPR Deutsche Welle.
Hi, Terry Schultz. Thank you very much. Since you've already given lots of answers on this, I've got to try more. When you told President Trump that you believed that NATO could do more, surely you hadn't had time to discuss in that very few moments since he made the announcement with all of the allies. So did you already have the feeling that all 28 are going to support perhaps diverting some resources to this new request of the United States? And to the Romanian Prime Minister, do you believe that given your concerns are in a different part of the world than the Middle East, as are many of the other allies, is that something you would like to see NATO money, NATO resources, NATO planning go to the Middle East when you feel that there are pressures right on NATO's borders? Thanks.
I would just say that President Trump has been very consistent in his message about NATO. He has called on European NATO allies and Canada to invest more, and he has called on NATO to do more in the fight against international terrorism. We are delivering more when it comes to investing, to spending, burden sharing. We still have a long way to go, but I think all NATO allies, including the United States, recognizes that, that we are making progress when it comes to burden-sharing defense spending. We are also, and we have also stepped up our efforts in the fight against international terrorism, working with countries in the region, North Africa, the Middle East. We have established a training mission in Iraq. NATO has joined the global coalition to defeat Daesh. We provide support to the global coalition, to the efforts of the global coalition to defeat Daesh, and all NATO allies are part of the global coalition. So for me, it's no surprise that the United States is calling for NATO to do more, because that has actually been the message from the United States for a long time. We are looking into what more we can do. Of course, we make decisions in NATO by consensus, so we need a process, we need agreement within the alliance, but also with the countries in the region. And this will take some time, but I welcome the fact that we now are looking into what more we can do, because we need to fight international terrorism. There's no way we can avoid doing that. It's a threat to all of us. And to stabilize, to help to create more predictability, peace, stability in the wider Middle East region is of course important for the people living there, but it's also extremely important for the people living in NATO countries. We are more secure when our neighbors are more stable. And that's exactly why NATO has been addressing these challenges for a long time, and why we are looking into what more we can do.
We proved from the moment we became a member of NATO that our involvement was very important, and if NATO will consider necessary to have a stronger presence and a stronger involvement in the fight against terrorism in Middle East or in other parts, we will be part of this action, decision, and movement.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.